whenever you hear any tips to increase testosterone, it's not that they don't work. They are all true. But the biggest determinant of your testosterone levels is your genetics. It's just so much more of a profoundly larger determinant than, that's why I like crap on guys when they're like, sun your balls. I'm like, okay, even if that has any effect on your testosterone levels, it's so minute. It's so minute, the effect that it has on your testosterone levels. The other part of this equation is, even if you have a lower than average testosterone, that doesn't mean it's impossible to build muscle. So somebody like Alex Hormozi, if he has slightly lower than average testosterone levels, there is the likelihood that he is just so consistent, so driven, so skilled at exercising.
Let's dive in, bro. Long time guest that we've been trying to get on the podcast, Mr. Gabe Pluguez. Is that the last name? I don't know.
That sounded a little rough.
Pluguez.
I've heard Plugner. I've heard
Plugner?
everything. I spelled it wrong for the first 5 years of my life. I can conceptualize a silent U, but there is a silent U.
Pluguez. Yeah, I got it, bro. Welcome to the show, bro.
Thanks, man.
This is like one of my best friends in life. Probably the best example of a leader that I can like go to in person on a consistent basis. And so this is long overdue, bro, to have you on here.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. God's good, and you've been a huge example to me too in so many different ways. So
appreciate it, bro. So we'll dive into your story, and we had your business partner and co-founder on the podcast a while back, Joey Yoheim, another last name that just throws you for one.
Tough last name.
Yeah.
Yoheim and Pluguez.
Yeah, it's like pretty unique. But we had him on the podcast a little while back, so our audience might be a little familiar with you guys in your business. So let's just start there. What do you guys do? How did you guys meet? And what is your life's work, really?
That's a great question. So we own a company called Default Kings, and it's a Christian men's fitness coaching company. And what we do is we teach sustainable fat loss from a biblical perspective, because we've done everything that you can think of when it comes to trying to teach people fat loss, right? And what we realize is most people who try to lose fat don't actually have a fat loss problem. They have a sustainability issue. For example, like if I kidnapped your family, right? And I was like, you have to lose 30 pounds in 15 days or they're dead. You'd figure it out. Right? What would we all do if we had to lose 30 pounds in 15 days?
Stop eating
and go for a run all day, every day, right? And so obviously that's an extreme example, but the point is not that people don't know how to lose fat conceptually. It comes down to their behaviors, their eating patterns, and their movement patterns. The issue people have is sustaining those behaviors consistently. So
and those behaviors are default actions, which is in the name.
Yeah, it's in the name. The Bible's the ultimate authority on human behavior. It's the ultimate authority on human behavior. So as we've gone down iterations of what we teach, and as we've worked with more and more people, we have just found that it is the biblical truths that speak to them and convict them in a way that actually changes their behavior.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just get right into the tough questions, right? Because like we all go to church for the most part, or we've all been to church before, and there are people in church who are out of shape and overweight. And so if you're speaking to that audience, what in the Bible is speaking to them and where they're at, saying this is wrong and this is sinful?
Okay, so the first distinction that I think is important to make, and I make this distinction because people have asked me this question, is that being fat doesn't mean you will go to hell.
Yeah, not what I'm implying, by the way.
When I say Christians shouldn't be fat, I'm not saying that being fat means you'll go to hell. Like salvation is something that's based on our faith in Christ. But a mistake that too many Christians make is they think it's only about salvation. And that wasn't Jesus's only command to us. He told us to go out and make disciples. He gave us the command of bringing heaven down to earth. And so we're called to witness, we're called to testify, to bring people to Christ. And being fat definitely doesn't help you bring people to Christ in any way, shape, or form. So if we look at this through the lens of you're a father and your goal is to be fruitful and multiply, as in raise your kids to be in the kingdom, how does being less present, having less energy? How does being taken less seriously by your son, who's looking at you thinking, is the way that he lives some way that I want to live? Are his beliefs things that I want to adopt? How is being taken less seriously by him empowering him to?
Is that part of your sales process? Like, oh, do you have kids? Like,
Is it part of my sales
is your
process?
kid embarrassed by you?
Okay, so the sales process, like Myron Golden talks about, right? You become more effective at sales when you're able to help someone believe more in themselves than they currently do, right? And so, yeah, 100%, it's part of the sales process. But when I think about sales, me and you can bond on this. Like, sales is persuading them to take an action, which is purchase, right? But then you have to persuade them to take an action, to change their behavior on the other side of the purchase, right? One of the people at the event this week said, like, there is buying power, but then there's buy-in power. And so for me to be able to help someone conclude that they should buy my product, but then follow through by changing the behavior, I need to make sure they know the implications of that. And one of the implications is how it impacts your family.
You really just need to align your belief systems. And that's why, like we've talked about, doing like a pre-pitch when somebody doesn't believe or think along the same lines as you. But if I was somebody who didn't know who you are, obviously I've known you for a couple of years now, so I understand how everything plays together. But my first reaction would be like, wait, Christianity, weight loss, like what does one have to do with the other?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's a big part of your sales process, just getting them to see how that connects, because you're calling out Christians in your organic content, in your ads, right?
100%. Yeah. Yeah. So it's an integral part of our sales process. It's an integral part of how we market, how we sell, and how we coach. Is what does the Bible say about how we're supposed to treat our bodies, and why does that actually matter?
Yeah, that's what I want to get into, right? Because like when you make the connection of like when you show up for your family, obviously if you're out of shape, you have less energy, and you're not the best role model you could be. But like what in the Bible specifically calls out either fitness or being in shape or the ways we eat? Because even Myron talks about like how food is like the biggest area of sin ever.
Right.
Well, yeah, gluttony.
Gluttony
is one of the deadly sins.
So gluttony is one of the. I think gluttony is the most overlooked sin in the church. In fact, I think it's the one sin in the church that even pastors will joke about. So a pastor would never publicly
There's a lot
joke.
of fat pastors.
There's a lot of fat. The majority of pastors are fat. The majority of human beings are fat.
We got to say that slowly. Fat pastors. Because I feel like if you're
Fat bastards.
it just sounds like there's a lot of fat bastards.
Fat pastors.
That's what I heard.
The majority of pastors are fat.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay. And pastors will joke about their gluttony. If a pastor, let's say, was secretly struggling with alcoholism, they would never show up on Sunday and be like, ha, ha, ha. Like, once I get going, I mean, you can't stop me on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Right? If a pastor secretly struggles with pornography, they'd never be like, guys, like sometimes at the end of the night, like when I'm stressed out and, it's been a while, like I you know what I do, right? You know what websites I'm on? No, but they joke about like, I mean, look at me. Like, I'm fat and pasty and I can eat. And we're like, yeah, we can see that you can eat and you can't stop eating, right? And the Bible tells us that the craving of a sluggard will be the death of him. And the Bible tells us that your body is not your own. It was bought with a price, and that it is the temple of the living God, right? And what did Jesus do when people were misusing the holy temple? Jesus, when he found that people were misusing the holy temple, flipped tables in the holy temple. Jesus, nice, hippie, forgiving Jesus, kumbaya Jesus, decided that the best thing to do when someone was misusing the holy temple was to turn over their tables, cause a ruckus, and make a mess. And so if we're self-sabotaging the temples that God loaned us to carry out his will on earth, I can't think of anything in the Bible or anything about the nature of the God that we worship that makes me believe he'd be pleased with you.
So what does gluttony mean? Like eating past where you're set
Gluttony is like overconsumption in all forms.
Yeah.
I don't. Is it just eating, or does it apply to basically all areas?
Gluttony is overindulgence.
Yes,
It's overindulgence. Food just happens to be like one of the main vehicles that we exercise gluttony.
Let's say I'm mindlessly scrolling on my phone for like hours, just consuming content, just absolute garbage food for the brain. Is that also gluttony?
I would consider that gluttony.
Yeah, me too.
So an interesting thing is a lot of guys will come to us specifically looking for help to change their food-related gluttony, their food-related default actions. But we get into like what their workout habits look like, and we find out they're just spending 3 hours a night on their phones scrolling, and it's all connected. There's this pattern of overindulgence that I think I really do believe that food addiction is synonymous with alcoholism. I think it's synonymous with overconsumption, gluttony, and marijuana. I think it's synonymous with porn addictions in that every single one of those, of course, they have actual different physical effects on our body. Like alcoholism has a biochemical effect on our neurology. Like it messes up the way you think and you operate. And you can have permanent mental damage from alcoholism and drug abuse. Food affects your physical body. It affects your metabolism. When an alcoholic turns to alcohol because they've had a bad day and they need a drink, it's the same behavior pattern as somebody who's chronically overweight turning to food because they're stressed and they are now going to go stress eat. Each of those things either brings us an emotion or numbs emotion, right? So alcohol is a depressant. So it quite literally numbs our ability to feel an emotion. So when an alcoholic is experiencing negative emotion, they turn to alcohol, right? Food is not a depressant. Food actually creates a dopamine release, right? And so when people who stress eat experience negative emotion, no matter what that negative emotion eats, one of the most common things with entrepreneurs and sales guys is like, you get off a call and it was stressful. And like, I just find myself wandering downstairs like mindlessly and grabbing food and coming back and smashing it before my next call. They just got off a call where they experienced stress. And now they want to go control their emotion and experience a dopamine hit. And they get that through food. So a roundabout way of answering your question, like, is gluttony just food? I don't think so. I just think that that's one of the most common and most widely accepted forms of how we exercise gluttony.
Do you help people like replace that addiction with something, or do you just like coach them through how to get rid of it?
Yeah. So replacement, like that's something that's common in the self-improvement world. But what I've seen is that with food is so tied to like, if you overeat, you're still going to have to eat 3 times a day. Right. And so there's like, what do? Do you like say like, people do try to do this actually. They're like, don't eat and like eat once a day. And every single person who restricts themselves to that degree ends up binging anyway. Anybody here ever done like a 70-something hour fast?
Yeah. How long was that one fast we did? Was it 48 hours?
I've done a 48-hour fast twice. I've never done a 72-hour fast.
What happened after the 42-hour fast?
I actually didn't eat too much right after because my stomach was fucked. Like the first time you eat, like your you can feel yourself digesting.
I like didn't know what to do. It was like weird.
Yeah.
It's like I want to eat, but like I want to be careful not to eat too much. And then like when
I felt
I ate
great on the second day of the fast.
During
like phenomenal.
the fast.
But then right after I broke the fast, like my digestive system was all weird for the next couple days. So I didn't really eat that much coming out of it either.
Yeah. Well, you guys were ripped. You guys are in shape. So it's the wrong people to ask. But what I'm saying is that it can't just be replacement, because there's a reason that they turn to food, right? The root cause of the reason they turn to food is because they're experiencing some sort of negative emotion. And so we need to not just replace how you cope. We need to figure out, why are you coping? And how do you change that so that you don't feel the need to cope, right?
Yeah. And what are the most common reasons you found that Christian men or just businessmen or entrepreneurs cope?
What are the most common reasons why they cope?
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people don't even know what it is. Like the first step is identifying what the actual issue is.
Yeah.
And so for people in the audience, it could be helpful. You list out some reasons and they might be able to relate.
So I'll give you 2 common things that are specific to Christian men, but I do think this applies to everybody, even if you're not Christian. One of the most common reasons people cope, and this is going to sound like a really unfortunate negative cycle, and it is, but one of the most common reasons people cope is because, there's me coping with what we just had for dinner by burping into the mic. But one of the most common reasons that people cope is because it's actually because they eat unhealthy. So when somebody eats unhealthy, remember how the example we shared in the beginning, like everybody inherently knows what to do to lose weight. Everybody inherently as a human being knows why they're fat. Nobody doesn't know why they're fat. You were there when you were smashing.
So you're saying it's not genetics?
It's not genetics, bro. You were there when you were smashing a 1,300 calorie pint of Ben & Jerry's last night. You were there. You saw that happen. And so because people watch themselves eat themselves into states of lower energy, eat themselves into states of lower attractiveness, eat themselves into states of poor health, they become stressed about the things they do every single day. They become stressed about their own eating patterns. So they freak out about the fact that they're fat. That stresses them out. And how do they cope with that stress? By eating. And then they get fatter and the stress increases and they cope with it by eating. And that's the unhealthy cycle that people find themselves in. But I think what's even bigger, and I think this applies to like people who aren't even Christians, is that I say this a lot in regards to alcohol. And it applies to food too, but like if you have to go to something to escape, to a vice to escape, it's because you are unhappy with your current reality. There's something in your life. It could be anything. It could be the way that you treat your wife. It could be the way that you treat your body. It could be how you show up at work. It could be how you show up in your friendships and your relationships. But if you have to escape, there's something about your life that's wrong, right? It's different for everybody. I mean, it's different for entrepreneurs. Like, it's really common for entrepreneurs to be crushed under the stress of business, right? They're carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders, and they have all these people they need to provide for, and these teams they need to take care of. And they come home, and at the end of the day, like all they want is a dopamine hit. They just want a moment of comfort. And the easiest way to find that moment of comfort is by opening the fridge and pulling out whatever's in there. And finally, they feel that, oh, God.
I'm somebody who struggles with that. Not so much with food. I used to do it with food all the time. Back when I was living at Ray's, like I would get off a call, I'd always just walk around and grab some peanuts and just like smash those. And this one when I was a little bit bigger, not huge, but I haven't really replaced the stress that comes from being on calls all the time. I just substituted nicotine and caffeine and walk. It's literally just like nicotine, caffeine, or walks.
Yeah.
Like one of the three every single time I get off a call. Like I need to pace around or I love going to get a coffee just to kill time. Like I'm drinking coffee right now, probably not healthy. I got to work later. Or like I'll just throw in a Zen. So like what do I do next to figure out what's going on and how I can not have to do one of those three things?
That's a great question. So like if you experience negative emotion or you're just in a season where negative emotion is heightened, right? Which like, I guess if you're an entrepreneur, negative emotion is probably always heightened, right?
Because even if you have a record month in April, it's like, okay, May starts. And like if May 1 was behind April 1, you're like, fuck, we're behind on the
automatically behind the April.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So if you experience a negative emotion, you cope with it by something that helps you reach some other goal. Okay. So like a walk, for example.
Yeah.
A walk is a coping mechanism that in no way, shape, or form negatively impacts your life.
Okay.
Like there's no way that impacts your relationships, your health, your wealth, your faith, whatever it is. That only benefits all of those areas, right? And so if you need to cope with a means that aligns with some other goal. So like, for example, one of the things that I used to cope is jiu-jitsu. All right.
Beating up other guys.
Yeah. Well, rolling around with other sweaty dudes on Tuesday nights.
Such a bully.
This is my favorite dude to roll around with right there.
Mr. Joey Johan
He looks like he's ready to scrap right now.
Bro, my girl loves jujitsu.
That's a red flag.
Just kidding.
You know, I think under the tough exterior, you guys both just want to hug after a long day.
We just want to hug, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because we're just like, we Joey and I live together and we run our business together. And so all day, every day, it's just like warpath. All day, every day, high stress, like trying to kill everything. And so we end the day by trying to kill each other. But after we try to kill each other, we get to cuddle in a sweaty pool. And, it's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, like I do cope with negative emotion with jiu-jitsu. But jiu-jitsu helps me reach a goal.
Yeah.
Right? It aids my fitness. It aids with the value that I have of being able to defend myself and protect others. And I just love jiu-jitsu for jiu-jitsu's sake. So it helps me get better at jiu-jitsu. I cope with stress by working out, right? But working out helps me reach a goal. It doesn't take away from any of my goals. Yeah. So
How much coffee is too much for gluttony?
Look, he's zooming out his face there.
You put yourself in the bind there, mister.
this is the one question I was hoping you would never ask.
You knew it was coming.
Yeah, this is actually something that I think is a really good point, because something that really pisses me off is, I'm just gonna say it, on health Twitter, because I have the platform today. Health Twitter is just, it's messed. It's a hellscape. It's a hellscape. Health Twitter is a culmination of coaches who want to gain status from money Twitter bros because of how hardcore their diet seems. That's what health Twitter is.
Oof.
Just saying.
Say it again.
So
what were people saying at the Myron again? Say that again.
Say it again, Pastor. So health Twitter is a culmination of coaches that want to gain status from money Twitter bros because of how hard their diets and lifestyles seem.
Isn't that kind of gay?
It's
I'll never understand like post physique. It's like it's all dudes on here, bro. Like, bro.
It's super gay.
All the comments are like looking chiseled, bro. I'm like, oh.
It's like the male version of show me your tits.
I mean, I post physique, but it's purely for profits. I don't use it.
Really
Fair enough.
You have to.
Yeah, it's a profit generating mechanism. But how much coffee is too much coffee?
Next question. Let's skip topics.
This is an uncomfortable one, because the reason I brought that up about health Twitter bros is because health Twitter bros are trying to make you live the most holistic, like perfectly dialed in lifestyle where they're like, dude, wake up at 5 a.m. Don't you dare even think about touching caffeine until you've, sunned your balls for an hour, like had your dog lick your butthole, and like whatever else they do, inhale, like snort a line of freaking dried
Methylene blue.
Methylene blue is the new one. Actually, I have nothing against methylene blue.
I don't either. I don't even know what it
But
is.
probably not snorting it.
Yeah, nothing against that. But like people will hyperfixate on the trends because the trends
showers.
seem hard. Cold showers. And it's not that those things have no utility, but one of the things is like, don't drink caffeine, right? And my question to you is, why is caffeine the most popular drug in the world? Because it has the highest demand of any other drug in the world. And it has the highest demand of any other drug in the world. And it sells so much because of the entire principle that we carry through all of our business. Like when you provide value to people, they buy. Yeah. Caffeine provides value to the world. It's a good thing, okay? Caffeine is a good thing. That's why people buy it. That's why Dan's drinking one right now at 9 p.m. It's cool. It's cool. But how much caffeine is too much caffeine? A hard number is like, generally, if you're at 400 milligrams a day or under, you're probably not going to experience any negative implications in terms of your sleep deteriorating. But what's more important than the caffeine dosage is the caffeine timing. So like if you have a cup of coffee right before you go to bed, it's going to be very hard to go to bed.
I've heard, it's got a half-life of 12 hours. I don't give a fuck.
Bro, I used to rip double espressos before bed.
Yeah. Like an espresso
sleep like a
martini
baby.
is a crazy choice. That's just a crazy choice.
It's like, I can't drink coffee before I go to bed. Like, just grow up, bro. I can't have a
really it,
cappuccino after dinner. I won't sleep. Like,
That's really it. It's like,
That's the most important.
sure about that.
Yeah. Well, that's the most important thing.
but
So
like, I have never experienced that because I grew up in Lebanon and like with my dad and my Lebanese family members, it's dinner and then coffee. Like there's not a dinner without coffee after.
that's so crazy.
And coffee, I'm saying Turkish coffee. I don't know if you've ever had Turkish coffee. It's like the strongest shot of espresso on the planet.
Yeah.
And it's like that's what you end the day with at like 9 p.m.
I was pulling up my phone. I'm at 5:15 a day.
Okay,
Pretty
550
consistent.
milligrams. Yeah. So
How many coffees is it?
That's like basically the equivalent of like one large one of these and like this.
There's that much caffeine in a large one?
In a cold brew, yeah. Then an iced coffee, it's got more. The concentration's higher.
like 300 mgs or something. But like the bigger concern is the timing. And so it's not even just the timing. The only reason a timing is a concern is because of how it affects your sleep. Because if your sleep gets too drastically messed up, we talked about sleep earlier, but if your sleep is too off, your cortisol just skyrockets, your testosterone production plummets. And cortisol is quite literally the fat storage hormone. And
You're putting yourself into some sticky situations
you put
here.
yourself into a sticky situation where you quite literally like people talk, you know, like
not enough sleep.
it's the
What?
opposite.
I thought sleep is for the weak.
Well, there's a line. There's a line. If if you wake up and like you can't function throughout the day, then your body's in hormonally a fat storage and muscle losing state. Like you take TRT to build muscle, poor sleep that's too bad. It just crushes your testosterone. So it's like the opposite of taking TRT. It's a performance inhibiting drug. But if your caffeine intake is ruining your sleep, that's where for your tolerance, you're drinking too much caffeine. If you are, Lebanese and you can drink a Turkish coffee and get 7 hours of sleep uninterrupted, you're good.
Lebanese are built different, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. So I try to stay under 400 milligrams a day and drink it before noon. That's what I try to do.
So I want to go back to something you guys kind of laughed off earlier when he said it's not genetics. I feel like so much of this is genetics, especially with weight loss. Like I know fat families who are just like, it seems like, holy shit, like these guys don't have a prayer. It's almost like their frame is built to just like like an ox. Yeah. And
My genetics are horrible.
on the opposite side, I know people who are like rail skinny,
Yeah.
who just eat garbage nonstop and they just don't seem to get any bigger.
Yeah. So there's a truth to everything, right? The genetic component of fat loss has more to do with the behavior of overeating than it does with the process of storing fat. So when you see a fat family, it's not that they store fat more easily than the skinny family. It's that there's something about their natural hormonal state where their resting ghrelin levels, that's the hunger hormone, are higher, are elevated chronically compared to the skinny family. So what the genetic problem is that family is genetically predisposed to be hungrier and be able to eat more often than a skinny family. They're not actually at a genetic disadvantage when it comes to being able to lose fat or gain or hold fat. They're at a genetic disadvantage in the sense of them boys like to eat.
They're hungry.
They're hungrier. They're hungry. And the super skinny family, they have chronically low ghrelin levels, which is the hunger hormone. Again, they're not.
So the skinny family, but like the skinny person that just eats and just doesn't seem to get bigger. How do those people make sense?
So at the end of the day, the answer to all of these questions is calories in, calories out, right? So the only way anybody eats anything and doesn't gain weight is if they're burning more calories than they eat. So there is also part of this that could be that either their lifestyle or their genetics means that their metabolism is higher than average. That's possible. That doesn't mean that the fat family can't lose weight because they're genetics.
No, it's just they may have a lower metabolic rate.
They might have a lower metabolic rate, but I think the bigger thing is that like my family is the fat family. Okay. My dad, diabetes, uncle's diabetes, grandpa's diabetes, like everyone and everything. Like I'm the first person in my family who has a six pack.
There you go.
That's awesome.
and
That's way cooler than when the people are like, I'm the first person in my family to get a college degree. You're like, oh, cool.
Yeah. Cool.
That's actually
Throw it
pretty
in the
cool.
garbage.
Yeah.
yeah, unfortunately that only lasted one generation. My parents was that generation for me, and I just like, it was like, sorry, mom. But yeah. So like if you spend time around families where everyone's overweight, you'll notice that they eat differently than the average person. You just like, you look at their shopping carts and you're like, there's like honey buns and Krispy Kreme and Mountain Dew and Hot Pockets and Pop-Tarts. And like,
My friend eats like that though, and he's like so skinny. It's just portions.
so here's the other thing. Even if somebody eats crappy food, that doesn't mean they eat enough of that crappy food for them to gain weight. So like some skinny families eat totally unhealthy in terms of the actual sources where they get their food, but they still don't eat too much of it. It's the amount.
Age has to play a role too, though, because I'm sure you've gotten on sales calls where they're like, "Oh, look, you when I was your age, I could eat."
Yeah. You want to know what's the ultimate like overcome to that?
Yeah.
My favorite overcome to that is like a damaging omission where they're expecting me to be like, "No, old man, like you can do it too." Well, I just be like, "Yeah, dude, you're right. It's way harder as you get older, and you're not getting any younger." Right? And they're like, "Yeah, like I need to do it." But it does get harder as you get older because you enter into this phase of chronic muscle loss as you get older. And muscle is the tissue that actually like sets your metabolism essentially.
Yeah.
So as you lose muscle, your metabolism decreases. You burn less calories. You can eat the same amount of food over the course of your life, but over time you're burning less calories, and so you gain weight.
And is there anything that happens hormonally that's different as you get older that makes it harder to lose weight?
Yeah. So your testosterone levels will drop over time. That hormone isn't going to affect a mechanism when it comes to you being able to lose fat. But your testosterone dropping will mean that you have less will to live. Yeah.
Less energy to do stuff.
You'll have less energy. You'll have less energy to do stuff. You'll have less drive. And it'll be harder for you to build and retain muscle. So the real reason why your metabolism slows down is because you're losing muscle over time. And that happens for a multitude of reasons.
And I feel like just they stop doing resistance training. Like even if they do work out, they'll just walk, which will burn calories, but it won't build back any of the muscle.
Yeah, it'll burn calories, but it won't build back any muscle. And like walking and cardio in general is like I'll paint it from the other end. Resistance training, building muscle, is like the MRR of fat loss, of calorie burn, because you build it once and it burns calories forever, right? Like Myron was drilling into our skulls this past week, where like you bake the offer once and they pay forever, right? Because when you build muscle, and as long as you retain that muscle, like you burn calories while you're building it in the gym, you're burning calories in the workout in and of itself. But then that muscle stays on your body and it burns calories while you sleep. Like all of us right now, every ounce of muscle on our bodies is actively burning calories. And so if you build more of it, we just are building more passive calorie burn, literally. Yeah. Reoccurring calorie burn. Right?
That's cool. It's like a body pyramid scheme, kind of.
It's a body pyramid scheme. But cardio is like the challenge.
Scam.
Yeah, it's a scam. Cardio's a scam though. But cardio is like the challenge funnel, where it's like you do all this work and you launch and like you might burn a ton of calories in one moment in time, but to replicate that, you have to do it again.
Yep. It sucks to do it again.
You ever recommend some of your older clients just go full Joe Rogan and get on TRT? Yeah?
I don't know if I'm legally allowed to advise on that. But
well, I mean, you could tell them to go to their doctor to ask about the testosterone levels.
Yeah. So one of my most controversial testosterone boosting tips is that you should consider taking TRT, because TRT.
I feel like that's not even controversial. It seems like common sense.
Yeah. Well, we live in health and money Twitter.
Okay. Yeah. There, it's like, yeah. I mean, eat a bull testicle. Like, no, just actually get more testosterone.
No, dude, just do test
from a doctor.
Just do test. Just do it. But so, like it can only help if you're not getting it from a back alley. That's the only risk. And if you're getting it from a back alley, okay? Testosterone makes your life better in every single facet that you can possibly conceive. It makes you better physically with muscle building. It makes you better in the bedroom. It makes you feel better. It makes you look better. Everything improves when your testosterone's higher. So if you have the option to take it in a way that's monitored and safe, you should take it. 100%. Yeah.
So what about for younger guys? Like obviously working out and like all the things we talked about, but what are the most obvious things that you see people miss for building or increasing testosterone levels?
Yeah. So it's interesting because testosterone in and of itself is the hormone that makes effort feel good. That's what it is. It's the drive hormone, right? And it has muscle building properties. Like if you have higher testosterone, you'll build muscle faster, period, no matter what you do. But the most common reason why young guys have low testosterone is because they don't do anything that requires them to have high testosterone. So if your habits are waking up at 10 a.m., no offense to anybody who does that. Like if your base and your schedule is like set up that way, because you can get everything, that's cool. But like, let's say you get 5 hours of sleep a night and you wake up and you have your Starbucks milkshake and you go through your day and you're doing scrolling. Bro,
there's no sugar in that. It's not
That's a white girl latte, actually. We have a technical classification for that. It's a white girl latte.
Dude, white girls know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Dude, you were the one last fall who was like, pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah, but I don't get the double almond cream soy milk caramel swirl macchiato.
Continue.
White girl lattes are sick. But if that's your day and like you end your day by smashing a bag of chips, like having 4 beers and then like jerking off, like, no, there's no reason why your body needs to produce testosterone. Like, there's actually no reason why your endocrine system has any reason to adapt by increasing its testosterone production. You're not doing anything that requires effort.
But I guess to counterpoint that, the same person who has almost too much drive, who's constantly working, constantly pushed towards goals, constantly is stressing out, not getting as much sleep as they should, like use Alex Hormozi and also use like Chris Williamson from the Modern Wisdom podcast, like high performing, like I guess if you're saying all the things that would make like a high testosterone man, like you'd probably say like those guys fit the mold. They have lower testosterone. Like they've gotten their testosterone checked. It's lower than normal. They supplement it with TRT and now they're good even though they're younger. So couldn't it also work against you if you have a ton of drive and you're just constantly on?
Yeah. So I think honestly, the answer to this question is that whenever you hear any tips to increase testosterone, it's not that they don't work. They are all true. But the biggest determinant of your testosterone levels is your genetics. It's just so much more of a profoundly larger determinant than, that's why I like crap on guys when they're like, sun your balls. I'm like, okay, even if that has any effect on your testosterone levels, it's so minute. It's so minute, the effect that it has on your testosterone levels. The other part of this equation is even if you have a lower than average testosterone, that doesn't mean it's impossible to build muscle. So somebody like Alex Hormozi, if he has slightly lower than average testosterone levels, there is the likelihood that he is just so consistent, so driven, so skilled at exercising, that he still builds more muscle than the average person who has higher test than him. Because he's so consistent, driven, discipline driven, and he does all the right things. But the biggest determinant of your testosterone levels is going to be your genetics. Yeah, we all know that one kid in like 6th grade, right? Who you're just like, what are they feeding him?
Yeah,
right.
And they're like, holy shit, the guy's got shoulders.
Yeah, and like you hear that like this. Yeah, you hear that there's growth
Hormozi, bro.
in
He's
adults.
jacked when he was like 15.
Yeah, he was jacked when he
He's
was
the
15.
best genetics I've ever seen.
Yeah, so like,
Easy.
No, but I'm saying that same guy is on testosterone.
What do you mean?
Hormozi is on testosterone.
Yeah, but he was jacked before he was on testosterone.
yeah. So honestly, when I see that, if somebody looks genetically blessed, I can't speculate. I don't know Alex Hormozi's testosterone numbers. I'd have to see them to tell you. Like if they're lower than average.
That's what we got Google for.
Okay, that's what we got.
Keep
Google.
going, keep going.
He donated them to somewhere else.
If somebody is jacked at 15,
someone in the same household.
Chill, bro.
if somebody's jacked at 15, I would question that they have chronically low testosterone because like they're genetically blessed and you can tell at 15. So like we all know that kid who at 15 was more jacked than everybody else, and we're like, yo, what? Like how?
Should I get checked?
Should you get checked?
Like, what's the? I feel like I want to know if I'm low testosterone so I can.
Bro,
fix
something about the toothpick is just throwing me off. Right? I saw you turn around and immediately be like thrown off for a second.
Toothpicks are low to you now.
Yeah, his was 124,
Okay, so
which is low. It's 300 to 1,000 is the recommended range.
Oh, wow.
my question would be, when was he tested for that?
I don't know. This is an iced coffee hour clip from last year.
Yeah. So 124 nanograms per deciliter is so chronically low that I would think that the only way your testosterone levels, natural testosterone production, is that chronically low is because
sleep. Right? He said he doesn't sleep.
that could be an effect. But I think a bigger effect is if you're taking exogenous testosterone, what that does is it inhibits your body's natural production. So the only time where you see like plummeted test levels is when someone has been doing tests exogenously and then they get off and then they test their testosterone and they're like, see, I have low testosterone. It's 124. Yeah, you've been blasting steroids for the last decade and you got off of them to get your testosterone.
So Alex Hormozi's on steroids.
I think he's been on steroids for a long time.
He's been super transparent about like when he did it, why he did it.
He did steroids or just TRT, you're saying?
Yeah, with testosterone, and I don't know if he's doing anything else, but I think the lower testosterone was caused by just constant stress.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. It's not impossible, but it's not likely.
Okay.
It's not.
Gotcha.
Stress does not plummet testosterone as much as
It does.
Well, how does like cortisol relate to testosterone?
There's essentially an inverse relationship.
So that'd be the link there.
Yeah. It is possible. Like I again, it's hard to tell, but that sounds unlikely. Like I love Alex Hormozi. Like all of his stuff has revolutionized our business in so many different ways. Great guy. But My test for is that person on steroids is, do they look bigger than a human should naturally be? Like if you look at someone and you're like, how is it even conceivably possible that they are that large? It's because a human can't get that large naturally. Probably. There's outliers. For sure there are outliers. But I mean, my honest theory is that Alex Hormozi has likely been taking TRT or on steroids for longer than he says he's been on them. That's my honest take.
That's a hot clip right there.
So should I get like what's the? You didn't answer my question.
He's not even listening. He's in La La Land. He's like,
trying to
bro.
put you guys out of business. He's just been looking for breaks in the thought pattern.
Should you get tested? There's nothing wrong with you getting tested, bro. There's nothing wrong with it.
All right.
But I don't think that I don't like. Let's say you got tested and you had chronically low testosterone. I would think that your first move would just be eating better more consistently and working out better more consistently. Like you'll get 90% of the results that you're thinking.
All right, guys, so I gotta go lift.
Yeah, like you'll get 90% of the results that you think higher T will get you just by those habits. It's not that extra T won't help, but that wouldn't be my first.
Yeah.
recommendation.
You ever left like a hard lift and you're like,
Hard?
yeah. No, you just
Like left a hard lift and we're
you're
talking
just
about
like
testosterone.
fucking, yeah. It's just like I feel it. You just feel
You
it.
feel like, what do you mean you
You feel
feel
it
it?
coursing through your veins.
Dude,
You've never had a hard workout and you're just like, I have more vitality.
Oh, you said like a good pump?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're a little horny, honestly.
I was wondering where you're getting at there.
yeah, like,
Oh,
spit
It's
it
like the
out.
Arnold Schwarzenegger clip. You've watched Pumping Iron?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
What'd he
Great
say?
documentary.
He said,
It's better than coming.
Better than coming.
Yeah, he's like,
I pump every day,
yeah.
twice a day.
Well, my take is like, if you're not horny, you're not healthy. Like you should have sexual desire, period. And here's the real test on if you have low T. Do you wake up with a boner?
I haven't thought about that.
every day?
Not as much as I used to. I don't give a fuck. I'll talk about whatever, bro.
That's the
He
question.
kind of wants to talk about it. Let him go.
That's the question you need to ask yourself.
Really?
Yeah, that's the question.
So it's bad if I'm not.
It's probably bad if you never wake up with a boner.
All right, I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, you have to think about that.
He's gonna like Dan's
hit
gonna
you
walk
up
into
like
Christian's
Gabe.
room. Dan's gonna walk into Christian's room. There's like girls, like pictures of girls all around his walls. Immediately he wakes up.
I'm gonna put like Sydney Sweeney on my ceiling.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Kate Upton.
Classic.
Honestly though, like if you're a man and you don't have sexual desire or drive, that's probably a massive indicator that you have low testosterone. Or because the primary function, there's a bunch of functions of testosterone, but the primary function is that it's the male reproductive hormone. Like that's why God gave us testosterone, is so we can reproduce and multiply, right? Be fruitful and multiply. So if you don't want to be fruitful and multiply, you probably have low testosterone.
Wow. That was a master class.
Yeah. I mean, wow. There is that one ultimate question though.
Which is?
What happens when we wake up? What do you see? Is there a camper in the tent or not? No.
There's more than a camper, man.
Joe's just over there shaking his head, but you know it's true. You know it's true.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. Morning wood used to go crazy in like 9th grade. I don't know.
Used to go crazy in 9th grade is crazy to say.
No, it's not. It's fact. Everyone had that.
It should be going crazy. It should
Oh
be,
shit!
Yeah.
I have a problem.
It should be going crazy.
So again, like, okay, in Christian's situation, he finds out he's really low T. No, like, in theory.
You're not speaking that over
Yeah,
it, but
of course. I'm just saying, right? And he improves his working out. He improves his eating habits. What else is there that is low hanging fruit or can be done?
if you do all the lifestyle changes consistently, you work out, you eat right, you're not at an elevated body fat percentage, you're getting some sort of vitamin D consistently, and you still have chronically low testosterone, it's hard because
Bro,
I can't.
A lift after some sun is like crazy.
You feel good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, vitamin D is a big one. But it's not that you have to get on testosterone replacement therapy, TRT. but like you can. The reason it's such a convoluted answer is because there's absolutely nothing wrong with having higher testosterone. So if somebody came to me and they're like, Gabe, I have perfect testosterone levels. Should I get on TRT? I'll be like, your life will only benefit.
If you want.
If you want. Your life will only benefit. I will be on TRT at some point, one day, for sure, 100%, without question.
Interesting. It's such a new concept to me that I'm not really sure the questions to ask, other than like, I guess it's not a downside, but you would just naturally have more drive.
You just have more drive for everything. Everything's better. So the real, like, the only time where it would be a bad idea is if you get on TRT and don't make any changes to your lifestyle, because the lifestyle will have a bigger impact. So for example, I've talked to so many different guys.
You want to talk about Ozempic?
Oh my Lord. It depends. If you want to go there.
Well, for the YouTube SEO, the clicks, you know.
Yeah. We can talk about Ozempic. But I've talked to so many guys who, like, on sales, right? We talk about killing alternatives and figuring out, like, what are you doing? What have you tried that's not working? And countless guys will tell me that they are currently on TRT. I am currently blasting exogenous testosterone, monitored by a doctor, and I'm still overweight. And I'm like, bro, the point is that will help, but nothing is more important than the consistency of the basic lifestyle changes. Nothing is more important than your default actions, because you can be on all the TRT in the world, but if you still eat Twinkies every night, you will be fat, period, right? Even if your testosterone levels come back high, you're still fat. Your metabolism still crashed. You still have chronically elevated blood sugar levels, chronically elevated triglycerides, chronically elevated blood pressure levels. You're still at risk for all the things that low T people are at risk for. So we've been talking about testosterone for a while, and it's important because everybody thinks that is the answer to their problems, but the reality is that it's not. It really isn't. The guy with lower T who has healthier default actions will be healthier, live longer, will look better than the guy who has high T, but he eats like crap all the time and he's 50 pounds overweight.
Makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. It's just like with anything. It's like you could apply that to anything in life.
Optimizing
you have to do the
things
work
that you don't even need to optimize.
Yeah, optimizing things that shouldn't exist in the first place, or just trying to optimize something that you're not meeting with real work, right? Like you can't. It's not a band-aid solution. Like, okay, so what are your thoughts on Ozempic? It's probably the same line of thinking, right?
Yeah, it's a very similar line of thinking. I think that Ozempic,
except it's probably got a lot more negative downsides than testosterone.
Yeah, well, the way that Ozempic works and a lot of these fat loss drugs work is that they inhibit your digestive system. So they literally will slow down how you digest food. Like, you digest food through muscular contractions. Your digestive system is a combination of muscles, and it contracts, like flexes, to get the food down and through your gut. And these fat loss drugs slow down that digestion, and the downsides are that people experience like paralyzed intestines after being on these drugs for a certain period of time. So the downsides are just crazy. But the only thing I'm going to speak on Ozempic is based on the conversations I've had with people who are on Ozempic. And Ozempic, I'll bring business and sales into this. Ozempic is the one objection that I have not found a way to overcome.
That's interesting. Why not? And why is it an objection in the first place? Like, hey, I'm on Ozempic. Okay, I still need to change my default actions. I still need to live a healthier lifestyle, because even if you lose weight artificially through something like Ozempic, ideally you're going to be healthier if you're working out, if you're eating right, if you're not doing shit like.
But it's to what extent? It's like their goal is just to lose a couple pounds. Ozempic can help them do it without any of those things. It's probably where the objection lies.
That's where the objection comes from. But here's the crazy part. Like, the people who I've talked to who are on Ozempic, they're not the guys who are 20 pounds overweight. They're not the guys who are 50 pounds overweight. They're not the guys who are 80 pounds overweight. They're the guys who are 100 plus pounds overweight. Like, I had a conversation with somebody who was 500 plus pounds. 500 plus pounds. Okay. That is, you've lived a life of gluttony. You are a slave to eating if you're 500 plus pounds. You have no control over your habits whatsoever, over behavior whatsoever, if you're 500 plus pounds.
The Zoom box is just completely full.
That bastard shows up to the call.
They join with
Bigger pieces of corn and me crap.
they join with 2 squares. I was just imagining the sales call.
Yeah.
I was thinking that. Low
I'd be like,
I don't want to say it.
I'd be like that'd be the first person where I'm like, actually, can you just turn your video off?
It actually
love
looks
this.
like the Zoom video thing where the guy's like literally like, you know how they have the little head up front and then the guy that like circles around the whole screen?
Yeah.
You know why Joey's over there sweating bullets? Because we know that our potential future prospects are going to watch this. Okay. And here, hold on. This conversation is the overcome to Ozempic. Our potential future prospects are going to watch this. I'm going to send it to them, specifically if they're taking Ozempic now that we're having this conversation. And the only way to help someone conclude that need to stop Ozempic is to help them see the shame, the sheer shame in what person of what character has to rely on a drug to stop themselves from overeating. And that's their only solution. The only people who will not use Ozempic are the people who don't want to tell their sons the story of, sorry, son, I couldn't do it. I had to default to relying on the pharmaceutical industry because I had no control over being able to stop myself from eating a Twinkie. At the end of the night, you weren't worth it. I would rather eat that Twinkie than be here for you longer. The only people who are going to stay on Ozempic are the people who are okay with telling that story, because that's the story they're gonna have to tell. Dad, how'd you lose 100 pounds? Well, like, the thought of being there for you wasn't enough. So I had to get on a drug that literally slowed down my digestive system.
And probably shorten the lifespan.
Probably shorten the lifespan.
It's such a new drug, we don't really know, but like,
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be easier if you had like an objection handling technique that also made it worth joining your program if they are on Ozempic?
Yeah. So
Because now you're competing against their doctor.
yeah. So the only way would be to help them conclude that what happens after you get off Ozempic, or what happens if you're on for too long, right?
or they're probably thinking forever. Or no.
What's the consequence when you get off? Which I have actually had people join who like have gone off of Ozempic
And they gain the weight right back.
and they gain the weight right back, so they understand the consequence. And they're like, oh, I get it. I was on this drug, it didn't last, so I need a different solution. But the only way would be what happens if you stay on forever, which are the potential negative implications on your health, or the story you have to tell your son when he asks you why you couldn't control yourself. Those are the only 2 negative downsides if you stay on forever. And then what happens when you get off? You gain all the weight back because your metabolism is absolutely plummeted because you're eating 1,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
And you eat a normal amount of food and you gain all the weight back. Those are the objection overcomes, right? There's so much less urgency on that than any other diet method.
Can I get on the calendar for a couple calls?
Yeah. What would you say?
Okay, so I would say you're on Ozempic. Did your doctor tell you about any of the downsides?
Okay. No.
Okay. So downsides are so, but you're not feeling any? You feel pretty good on it?
Yeah, so far.
Okay. Does it cost you any money to stay on Ozempic?
Yeah. I mean, insurance covers it right now, but I'm gonna have to pay for it eventually.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, there's that long-term cost, also the potential downsides that we just talked about. Do you see yourself staying on that forever?
Well, no.
Okay. Well, happy you said that, because obviously you don't want to rely on something like from the pharmaceutical industry to be able to be there for your family and whatnot. But this is just from my 15 conversations that I've had in the past 2 months with people that have gotten off Ozempic. And here's what happens. Because it doesn't fix the underlying issue, it just temporarily restricts your digestive system. The moment they get off of it, they gain all of the weight back, right? So it's either you stay on forever, you have these negative downsides that if they haven't come yet, that's good, but they will come at some point. You're kind of just playing the lottery with your health each and every time you take it. And if you get off, you're immediately going to gain the weight back. Unless the only 2 people that I've actually talked to that have gotten off and not had just like a terrible roller coaster ride with their health are the people that also adopted a healthier lifestyle. Because they changed those default actions, when they got off, even when their digestive system picked back up to a normal rate and they weren't reaching for the pantry every time they were stressed, they're actually completely fine. So I'm just letting you know because the vast majority of people who I've talked to that have gone off of it, their health is just temporarily fixed, but permanently fucked. The only people that are actually fine when they do get off are the ones that make the efforts to change in the time that they're on Ozempic. So when they do get off, they're actually living a healthy lifestyle because that's really all it is. You're kind of just building a house of cards. And if you don't actually lay a strong foundation underneath it, everything's just going to shatter the moment you get off. Or you can fix your default actions. And then when you do get off, you could actually live a healthy lifestyle. So I would just try to align myself with like, hey, unless you want to stay on forever,
Yeah.
and each and every month that you're on it, you're facing these horrible side effects.
Yeah.
Like
And it just becomes harder to get off because you're so used to it at that point.
I like that.
it's not like it's an addictive thing though. So like
Yeah.
it's probably easy to stop at any time.
It's not addictive. Like,
But
any
what's
other
addictive
drug.
is like this new you that people are complimenting you on and the way you look and the way you feel.
Yeah, so I'm saying that new you only exists while you're taking a substance that has these downsides. So you're basically like look at this bowl of M&Ms, right? There's 1,000 M&Ms.
Where?
And two,
Show me, bring
and
me.
basically 2 of the M&Ms in there are poisonous. You're kind of just taking one M&M a day.
like
You're
that.
fine so far, but like eventually you're probably going to run into one of those bad side effects, right? So eventually when you're fine, you're full, you don't need any more M&Ms, you don't need any more Ozempic, you want to get off. And unless you fix the underlying actions by the time you get off, you're fucked. That's like, because I think it's just easier because like if I don't
Jeez,
join client ascension.
Join client ascension.
man.
Because like no, 'cause
Fully converted.
I'm looking at like if I was on Ozempic and I was on one of your sales calls, like you guys could be like, you could tell like an emotionally strong story. And I could be like, damn, I don't want to be that guy who has to tell us on this, that, and the third. But I get off the call. I have a follow-up appointment with my doctor the next 2 weeks. I found you on Twitter a couple days ago where I saw an ad like
The trust is
just because of the way that we've been raised since we were born. Doctors know best. That's why they call it in sales the doctor method. Like you're never like no matter how many case studies you have, it's almost impossible to compete with a doctor if you're giving health advice. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, that definitely.
Or very, very tough at least. So I'd rather just like align it so you're like, hey, you need this. So when you get off, which actually, I don't know what I'm talking about right now, but I think it's actually medically truthful.
No, this is all medically accurate.
Yeah. So that would be the way that I would handle it.
That's
Solid.
super helpful. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
It's solid, bro.
Where's my commission check?
Well, that's it. Yeah, you're getting 10% of anybody who closes.
Recurring.
But yeah, no, that's huge. That's huge because it's like I have to bring them to that conclusion in a way where it's like it is the only logical end of that is a negative implication.
Yeah. And dude, you know what I found moves people super well? Is instead of like being like, hey, if this doesn't happen, if you don't do this, this is what's gonna happen to you. And like you need to make that decision, you need to do this, you need to do that. Like that can work at the very end of the call when you're really trying to like almost like question somebody's
Right.
manhood. But if you
Say
started off
question their beliefs.
Question
yeah,
their character,
if you
yeah.
started off though a little bit lighter by saying like, hey, I've had 15 conversations in the past, blah, blah, blah. And like, this is what happens. And this is this is how people are healthy once they get off Ozempic. This is how people suffer and go back to square one the moment they get off. It's a little bit easier for them to start digesting it. And by the time you have that conversation, like if you,
Digesting.
yeah.
They ain't digested much of anything. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But by the time you actually get to the point where you push them a little bit, like it's a little bit easier.
That definitely
You've kind of like you're here all the way over,
The extreme.
they're over on that side. And it's like, instead of like trying to get them there at the end of the call, when you have like maybe 5 minutes left, you're kind of just like easing them into there. So
Yeah.
It's not as large of a
Not
gap
as
to
much
close.
of a heave.
Yeah.
That
You're not
definitely makes
stuffing your face with Twinkies.
sense. Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
I love how we still use Twinkies. Like I haven't even seen a Twinkie.
I've never had a single client who eats Twinkies.
Yeah.
It's just a classic.
It just
though.
sounds
it's like
crazy.
the classic example.
But no, that's
Fat-
huge.
fat joke.
Yeah, that's
It's a fat joke.
You guys made a big pivot, right? Where you went from targeting just any entrepreneurial minded men or business driven men to targeting specifically Christian business owners, right? Which in theory is like a limited market compared to what you were targeting and working with before. So I know we talked through it a lot, obviously, because again, we've been connected for a while. And that was a big decision for you guys, a big leap of faith for you guys. But like, how has making that pivot shown up in like sales conversations, right? Because you could challenge, if you're talking to a Christian business owner or just a Christian man in general, you can challenge their beliefs about some of these things.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, at the end of the day, in any sales conversation, like, we need to help them conclude that their actions aren't aligning with
what they say believe.
What they say they believe, right?
Yeah.
Who they believe they are, who they claim that they are. And so the way that shows up is, if you say you're a Christian and you believe the Bible and you want to do everything in your power to honor God, how does your current behavior dishonor God? That's it. Simple as that, right? And that's just the truth. Like, that's just the truth of what we believe. So yeah, that's how it shows up in the sales conversations. It was a big pivot for us, but like, it was just a continual process of us being like, how do we teach this effectively? Why don't we just go directly to the source? The other part of it is, like, our grand mission is to completely eliminate obesity from the Christian world, period. And the people who have the most influence in the world, period, are entrepreneurs, are business owners. We have the leverage, we have the power, we have the influence, right? People look to us.
Most money, most followers, most impact.
Yeah. And so if we can impact the leaders, then like we see the trickle down effect of that.
Yeah, it's not like you have to work with every Christian that's overweight. It's like you work with the ones that have the highest leverage or the most influence, and that trickles down.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so like experience since making the pivot, like businesses is going well?
Yeah, way.
Like there are some clients out there that are Christian business owners.
There are some.
Never heard of them.
Never. Well, yeah, we just came from an event where it's like literally all Christian business owners.
Yeah, Myron Golden. He shattered. I mean, at least if I were to go into that industry, he would have been the one that shattered my limiting beliefs immediately, because all he talks about on his YouTube is how the Bible relates to doing business well. And he has the fastest growing, most successful YouTube channel I've ever seen. And the event just this week was a testament to that.
That was so incredible. But yeah, like the market of Christian business owners is endless. And again, like the mission isn't just to stop there. The mission isn't just to build the business. And so like if we sell every Christian entrepreneur on the face of the earth, like that's not the end for us. We want to reach all Christians. We just believe that it starts with the entrepreneurs.
The
It starts with
entrepreneurs.
the people who have the leverage. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
bro.
Were you doing any lead gen at the event?
was I doing any lead gen at the event?
No, I loved
I'd be
what
trying to
Myron.
pick up
Were you there
clients.
this morning
Yeah. I was
for
there.
Myron's
Yeah.
opening talk? Dude, he basically like shat all over people that show up to events like that and try to pitch their services. It was a genius thing,
crapped
bro.
on it.
It was a
Crapped
genius thing because really, I think what he had in mind is like, this is my event. These are my people to sell. Like, get out of my way. But like the way he framed it made a lot of sense. It's
How do you
like
frame it?
he basically was like, listen, like if you're in the audience and you're connecting with other people, just be careful because you just met that person, and to buy something from someone you just met at an event is not the wisest choice, right? Instead of, you've known me for so much time, if I have something to sell you, like it makes a lot more sense because I know, like basically he was saying,
Pitch?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
he pitched multiple times throughout the event.
What was it?
I mean, I didn't go into the room to see the actual pitch, but like
There's a separate room for it.
yeah, so the way he does it is awesome. You go up to the front at the start of the event to get a form if you're interested in hearing a pitch about an offer. He doesn't say exactly what. So you go up, you get a form, you fill it out, and then you submit the form. And then you have a piece of the form that's like your submission proof that you then use as your ticket to get into the room to hear the pitch.
We
And
went
so-
into the room.
You went into the room? What was it like?
It was incredible. So he made the offers. He had 2 offers, and he went through the first one. And it was, dude, just like harsh disqualification. He's like, "This is only for you if you're under 10K a month. Like you 20K plus a month." There's like, "No, you don't want this."
Under 10K, and how much was the offer?
It was 27K.
You have to be under 10K
Doesn't
to
make
buy
any
a
sense, though.
27K
Who's
offer.
buying that?
Well, before that, he said on stage, he did a whole keynote on how I can't afford this is a concept, or not a real
construct,
concept.
not a-
It's a construct. It's not a real thing.
Yeah, like you guys have been to events, but like,
Think about it. He said, how many of you guys have bought things you can't afford? And the entire room raised their hands. Their car, their house, college education, everything they put on
So it's all financing.
financed. Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of people finance.
All of it is financing. But sorry, go ahead.
No.
So he pitches that hard disqualification.
Hard disqualification and like overcomes objections for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. While
Like
people
live objections?
Live. Just like while people are walking up, submitting their forms, swiping their credit cards, getting set up, he's just going for 15, 20 minutes. Then once that's done, he makes the second offer for the people who are qualified, 20K plus a month. And it's the same thing. Offer stack, benefits, value to the whole room. Very quietly, don't hurt anyone. If you want to take advantage of this, get out of your sheets now. And everybody walks over.
55K offer.
Yeah, for a
That
55K offer. And while people are processing those payments, he's overcoming objections for like 20 minutes.
Yeah. I know
many
our
people
friend
bought?
Dylan Rich bought the 55K one in that room the other day. Yeah, he texted me. Yeah. But like, dude, so good. And then today, it was an ongoing thing because you guys were in the room. Not everyone in the room converts right away, obviously, right? The rest of the event is continuing to build the beliefs necessary for someone to be ready to buy. Yeah. So today, you walk in and it's weird. Like there's chairs in the audience, but then there's like 20 chairs like on or near the stage. And I'm like, well, what is that for? So like halfway through the event today, he's like, guys, if you were in the room and you're upset with the way you reacted to the offer and you didn't take advantage of the offer, we have a couple of spots left. And so get up very quietly. And if you want to go into the room to hear the pitch again, take one of these seats. But there's only so many seats you see up here to be taken. And so first come, first serve. And you see the room, again, of people that went in yesterday, didn't buy right away, to go up to the chairs again to be pitched again. And one guy, he had 3 seats on the stage. He said, I have 3 seats for whoever wants to hear my $1 million a day pitch. And one guy went up on stage to hear that pitch.
Like,
So he probably sold someone on $1 million offer.
it's crazy because like the entire
Dude, he just has such an emotional buy-in though. Like it's not even logic. He just like has everyone so bought in.
It is logic if you listen to his content.
Listen to the crowd. They're going fucking bonkers when he's on stage.
But like, are you listening to what he's saying?
Yeah.
Life-changing stuff.
But it's like so logical that it makes you emotional.
Oh, of course. I mean, every purchase is emotional in some way, but when he speaks, it's like, it's so refreshing.
But it's not even like, oh, I'll help you add 10K. It's like, work with me. They're like, yeah. Like there's not even a tangible result.
Well,
There's
well,
something about
if you
the
go
way
into the
you-
room to hear the offer, obviously it's a lot more specific. In that one pager, if you look
he
at
does
it.
do the full, like when it's time to pay, he does the full offer stuff.
Yeah, you know what you're getting into.
You know, yeah.
His other keynotes and stuff are bigger ideas. All his event it's to sell a course, and every speaker, the way it's designed, it's so masterfully done. It's like
it's incredible because the way it's designed is like if you just take everything for what it is, it's provides you value and helps instill belief in you that whether you take us up for offer up or not, like you're going to be better after the event. But it also builds a belief that hey, like the solution is the offer that is being pitched. It's just it was sales at the highest level, like at the from start of the event to the end of the event. The entire thing was sales at the highest level. And like something that he talks about, which I believe is like selling is service, right? Like that's a belief that I hold. Like it's my, and there was a whole keynote on the fact that like, if you have something that can transform someone's life, it's your moral obligation to sell them, right? And I believe that to be true on the face, yes. But that also built the belief that he's going to sell us and it's going to be transformational. And so that,
and if he didn't, he'd be a fraud.
and if he didn't, he'd be a fraud. So like the whole thing both gave us value, but also was so true that it sold his thing too, which is the best form of sales. It's just when you're so capable of highlighting the truth to somebody that they see the world differently. And if the truth is that your offer is a solution to their problem, there's only one logical and emotional decision to make. It's buying, right?
Yeah, even if you don't have the money. Yeah, he is the best salesperson I've ever seen.
Incredible. Like mind blowing.
I agree with Christian though that there's something about the way that he delivers it that evokes emotion. Where if you had
If he said, I'm starting a cult, follow me out the door if you want to come, the whole fucking room would go.
exactly like if I delivered the same pitch,
I'd be first in line.
if I
Well, it's
delivered
just because of all the things he's done leading up to it.
Yeah,
It's not because he just gets up on stage and says, I'm doing this, follow me. It's the reason they're following
He's a
him
really
is
good
because,
speaker. That's why.
yeah,
Because, well, what is he speaking on?
Truth.
He's very, very good at articulating business and religion.
I think it's like,
But like the people, so his audience are people that before anything else believe or have such a strong faith. And they've never been exposed to someone in business or in the world or in these industries that connect faith to actually doing these things in a way that is what's the best way to say, ethical, right? In a way that serves God, because Christians have been
programmed to
believe that you're supposed to be broke and you're not supposed to get rich because that is inherently a sin. And so when you hear him speak in these perspectives that actually know that that's false, that's the devil at work, and really Christians are supposed to be rich, not because of all the
I
things
still think
that
it's the
come
way
with
he
that.
delivers it, though. Like a pastor
like,
could.
100%.
I will 100% one day buy one of Myron Golden's offers. And like, I think we can look at it through both lenses of like, it's very emotional pitching and it's also just logical. But I've taken things that Myron Golden has taught in terms of beliefs and tactics, logically implemented them and experienced a logical outcome. And that logical outcome gave me a positive emotion. Yes. So will I buy because I experienced a positive emotion or because it was the logical outcome? It's just both. Like it was true and I felt like it. Both are just true. Yeah. Right. So like even with something like client ascension, like it seems so logical in comparison to like Myron Golden. It's very logical. Like we teach you how to build these acquisition systems, period. Like that's a logical thing. But like, I'm like, dude,
We need more emotion.
We got to start using God.
No.
Actually, that's
like-
what Myron does.
Well, I know because he's been studying the Bible since he's 16 years old for 47 years.
I'll start studying.
All right.
No, we
Yeah.
just
Well, like,
the Matrix is coming.
yeah, like I
Think about how powerful of a selling tool that is, though. If my followers all believe I'm speaking the word of God,
Well,
and I
they're
tell them to
only
do
going to
something.
believe it if it comes across as truth, which is incredibly difficult to do if you don't have. Bro, the reason that's why Myron is so good. I admire him first before business or anything else as someone that I go to just to learn more about God and the Bible, because the way he explains it, I've read the Bible, I've gone through different apps, I've listened to podcasts, and it never clicks the same way it does when Myron's explaining it. Pull the business part completely.
I think it's emotional and
to
true.
the side.
I think it's emotional and true. Because like we didn't have to hop on a sales call for client session. We just bought. You know, y'all are welcome.
Thanks, bro.
Did Andre get commission for that? But
Yes, indeed.
like I don't know. This is like a conversation around sales, but I was 100% picturing like what I get to experience on the other side of that. Yeah. Like my business is going to be so much more stable, and I'm going to have more power to be able to provide for my future family. Like, yeah, I want to do it. And logically, it makes sense because like I don't know what they know, and I need to implement what they teach me how to implement.
Yeah.
But, like both are true. Yeah, I don't know. Like so.
Another example, Myron, emotional selling. Like, do you want to pull your family out of poverty? Like, he kept saying that over and over.
But yeah, it's true. Like, well, so Daniel says, stop being poor. That's shame, right?
Yeah.
But that's helpful
Bullying.
logically.
It's the same way you shame people that are overweight. It's like you have to drive them against a negative emotion first. Myron did an entire keynote. Remember we talked about it after? The way he generates leads is by pulling them out of pain before he takes them towards pleasure. That's like that right there. Don't miss that, because that is huge, right? Because if you look at any marketing, it's all about results and having an offer that's super sexy rather than driving them first away from pain. Once you've built enough trust and you've shown them that you can help them, then you can take them to the pleasure part. But it's like starting with driving them away from pain, stop being poor or break out of poverty or stop being fat, whatever. Like you can just stop being fat
Stop being
is your
poor.
thing.
But yeah, it's like stop being poor. Okay, so the loop that opens in my mind is how? Well, you need to have a business that has these predictable client acquisition systems. Okay, well, I don't know how to do that. We have a logical solution to that problem. Gotcha. So that if I take that logical solution to the problem, I get the emotional experience of being wealthy. Yeah. So I think like the hardest thing, because I think the reason we're even having this discussion is because he's using the Bible as part of his sales process.
Yes.
Right. Okay, cool. That's why we're having this discussion. And people can use the Bible falsely for their own prosperity. That's called the prosperity gospel, right?
Yeah.
And what the prosperity gospel is when they teach the parts of the Bible that say that wealth is good, but they miss the point. They say that we can use the Bible to gain wealth. But the truth is that we can use the Bible to gain wealth, and we can use the wealth to build the kingdom. That's the point. So like, I'll explain it in this story of Simon Peter. I didn't get this, by the way, from myself. I heard this told by Priscilla Shear, I believe is her last name.
Simon Peter from the Bible.
Simon Peter from the Bible. So Simon Peter from the Bible. Peter is like the father of like the church, period.
Yeah,
Like,
he's the first pope.
He's the first pope, the person who Jesus gave the keys to the kingdom. Very important dude. Simon Peter was in this situation where he owed a bunch of taxes to the Roman government, had no means of paying back these taxes. And they gave him a deadline that, I can't remember I don't know the exact time period, but they gave him a deadline. It was basically like, if you can't pay these taxes, you're going to jail, right? And so Simon is freaking out. He's a fisherman. And he goes out on the lake one night and fishes all night. All night. He does everything he can to bring in these fish so that he can pay this massive tax bill, because he knows that if he can't pay it, the next morning, they're taking him in. And he fishes all night, does everything he can, comes up empty, comes up short, right? And when he comes up empty, comes up short, the morning comes around, Jesus is talking to some people on the side of the lake. Simon Peter pulls up the boat, and Jesus sees Simon's empty boat while Jesus is talking to the crowd. And Jesus is basically like, yo, can I use your boat to like get up on so my voice can be projected so that I can reach the people who I'm talking to? So I'm just like, yeah, sure, whatever. Jesus steps up on the empty boat, and Jesus does a miracle where the boat suddenly fills with fish. So much fish that in Simon's net, that net couldn't even contain the amount of fish that Jesus filled the boat with. So like Simon's like calling all his buddies, yo, bring your freaking net. There's too much fish. There's too much money. I can't even handle it. Like, what am I looking at? It's just the striped Congo burr, right?
Yeah.
It's exactly what was happening. That's not like a spiritual explanation of that story. That is the literal explanation of that story. Simon needed currency to pay his tax bill. The currency was the fish. That was literally a money miracle. That's literally what it was. And so Jesus does this miracle, right, where he fills the boat. He blesses Simon Peter financially. And that's where the prosperity gospel ends. Is if you believe in Jesus, he'll bless you financially. That's where it ends. But people forget the end of that story. The end of that story isn't that Jesus filled the boat. The end of the story isn't that Jesus is going to bless you financially. The end of the story is, as soon as that boat was filled, Simon Peter falls down to his knees, and Jesus says, let's go now be fishers of men. Let's go now be fishers of men. And so the point isn't that we believe in Jesus and get the money. The point is that we believe in Jesus, and he in his own power gives us everything we could ever imagine desiring, so that we know that the money isn't even the point. Like, he'll give me so much money so that I know, people who are really successful say, you need to make so much money that you know money doesn't matter. That's the whole point. If you are obedient and you believe and you have faith, he'll bless you. And so you'll know that it's not even about the blessing. It's about the fact that now I'm telling this story from that many years ago. And it's about the fact that now Simon Peter could tell the story of, this is what Jesus did for me. That's the whole point. So the whole point in
It's
this,
like one less thing to worry about, so you can focus on spreading the word.
so you can
It's
focus on what
abundance.
really matters.
And it's
Yeah.
abundance.
And it's abundance, right?
Because he had a lot more fish in that boat than he needed to pay back in taxes.
Yeah, and the other point is that he couldn't do it himself, and he didn't do it himself, right? It was only possible through the grace of Jesus. So it paints this picture of, as Christians, how we can't do anything, we can't do enough by our own strength. We need the grace of God. That's one of the lessons. The other lesson is that what God will do through you in terms of the blessings you experience, that's great and that's good. And that will mean that you don't have to go to jail in the morning because you were able to pay your tax bill and feed the village. Right?
Yeah.
But it also means that you'll have so much abundance that you no longer are even focused on that. And you're focused on the real point, which is reaching people, right? Being fishers of men. So the prosperity gospel and where it gets wrong is when it's use Jesus to make money. Their full story should be, have faith in Jesus. He'll give you the blessing. And once you have the blessing, make sure you recognize that the real point is to reach more people for Jesus.
And use it to reach more people.
And use that money to go reach more people.
Because how is Simon going to reach people if he's in jail?
Yeah. He ain't fishing no men in jail. So it's like a really, really important thing to talk about, though, in the realm of like Myron Golden and prosperity gospel and people using the Bible to manipulate others, right?
Why does it feel like, ugh?
So I think that it feels like,
Can't even put in the words. Like, it just gives me kind of like a slimy feeling.
yeah. I think it feels like because the common narrative that has come from the church is that that's not what the Bible teaches. So it literally seems morally wrong because the moral story has been that you're more moral from Christians, has been that you're more moral if you're poor and that rich people are bad. We're programmed to believe rich people are bad. Every bad movie, every bad guy in every movie is the rich guy, right?
I think for me, it's more so like the Southern pastors who are like super, super, super rich.
Yeah.
Like the Joel Osteen
The
types.
mega churches are.
Or even like going back in the Catholic Church, like the priests were scumbags. They used to sell indulgences. Like that's fucking horrible. It's like the worst sin you can do.
Yeah.
And it's like, so like, that's like my connotation that I have in my head.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So like at the end of the day, like people say that money is an amplifier, right?
Yeah.
And like if you suck and you make a lot of money, you're probably just going to be a more powerful sucky person, right?
Yeah.
But it's an amplifier. So if your heart's focused on the right thing, you're going to use that money to do good, right? Like I want to be rich as a Christian. And I'm not shy about that because yes, I want the Lamborghini and I'm actually not a Lambo guy. That's kind of weird. I like Ferraris more. That's what I'm going to get. Like Lambos, I tell Joey he likes Lambos. I'm like, grow up, dude. I'm like, yeah.
It's like a toy.
But I want to be rich because yes, I want the blessing. And the Bible teaches that there's nothing wrong with experiencing the blessing. That's another false thing is that people think that Christians aren't supposed to experience pleasure. But God gave us the desire for good things. He designed us to want pleasure.
Yeah. What's that quote? It's like it's tougher for a camel to get through
the eye of a needle than
it
for
is.
a rich man to enter heaven. But
Yeah.
that's taken out of
There's a whole context there.
Yeah.
But the reality,
That's like people will sling Bible quotes, but like the Bible is I forget who said this. I think it was Jordan Peterson. Like the Bible is like the original hyperlinked text. Like everything links to something else in the Bible. You can't just take a quote from the Bible and believe that to be truth.
yeah, the context matters. Like, because if you don't understand the story of grace, then that sounds like, okay, you can't be rich and get in heaven.
And also the way Jesus taught was in parables. And so a lot of people take what he said literally. And that, so there's
That, yeah, it's
a lot
100%
to
true. But like,
dive deeper
I want to be rich because there's nothing wrong with experiencing good things. And I want to be rich because I will 100% use that money to do two things. Number one is I'll literally use it to reach people for Jesus. I will literally use it like to fund mission trips and to be able to have the freedom to be in ministry if I want one day. I'll use it for that purpose. But the other thing is when people ask me, Gabe, how did you get that? I'll be like, I didn't do it on my own. He's my provider. That's how I got it. So money in and of itself as a Christian is, number one, is on the face of it, it's not bad. It's not bad if you want
it's
to
also social proof for God of abundance.
It's social proof for God of abundance. It's a tool that you can use to say, hey, look what I have. People are going to ask, how'd you get that? God. It's very hard to, the same way it's hard to wrap your mind around why God would want you fat, it's hard to wrap your mind around why God would want you financially poor. It doesn't align with any of the things that he commands us to do.
Yeah. No, I've never struggled with that. I want money like
Yeah.
the 500-pound prospect wants a Twinkie. But it's more so it's just like using it to sell, right? Is like, it's something where like, yeah, of course, for you guys from Myron who are doing something ethical, I'm happy you do it.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a dangerous tactic to teach because it gets in the hands of the wrong person.
It could, 100%.
And it's just like,
It's true. It's 100% true.
Yeah.
Wait, tactic to, what do you mean?
like using God as a mechanism to sell.
Because so many people will miss. They'll miss the point.
Yeah,
They will.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
But Myron doesn't teach you to do that.
No, but I'm saying, let's say Myron created a course. Like, hey,
Yeah.
this is how I use God
Yeah.
to sell.
Then
And this
I
is for
think
all the
that would
ethical
be-
reasons.
Yeah.
But you sell that course for $50.
Yeah.
You're going to get 1 million people to buy it, and 5% of them will be Gabe.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
like
No,
actually going to use
that's
it for
the thing.
good.
I agree. I don't-
95% of it is going to be bad.
That 100, I agree.
Yeah.
But that's not what he does. That's what I was
Yeah.
clearing up. That's the thing. He
That's
can
where
do
the
that.
Southern prosperity gospel preachers come from.
Gotcha.
Because the reality is like, it's true. It's just true.
The Joel
That's just
Osteens of the
like,
world. Yeah.
that just is a thing, and it sucks. But that doesn't mean we can't use it for good.
It's almost like you have to use it for good.
You almost have to.
Yeah, because if it's only people using it for bad, then it kind of taints Christianity as a whole.
Because there's the enemy in this realm of like the Christians who believe you should be poor. That's one of the enemies. The other enemy is the people who like are just totally like only self-interested. There's no point of the money. They want to use it for bad. And then the other enemy is the Christians who are like, I'm going to use the Bible to get rich, and that's the point. And I'm going to use it to sell people on the stream of getting rich for my own benefit only.
Yeah.
They're another enemy.
So it's never about rich or poor. It's really about intention.
Yeah. What's your end goal, right? So because like, so a question people ask me too is like, Gabe, why are you so obsessed with how you look? Like Christians will ask me that. Like I'm not, I don't necessarily enjoy taking selfies in the mirror, my shirt off, but it's profitable. But like the reason, like I believe that it's not good for Christians to be unhealthy, sick, overweight, but I actually believe it's good for Christians to be ripped, attractive, jacked.
Is that why Jesus is always kind of jacked up on the cross? Actually,
Yeah.
he's always kind of
You always
got a
see like
six-pack. He's got some
the
definition.
muscles.
It wasn't
For sure.
fat. But like, because there's a difference between coveting and jealousy. Like the Bible says that God is a jealous God. Coveting is when you want something that somebody has, but you're willing to take it from them. Jealousy is I just want what you have. There's nothing wrong with wanting what you have. Like I want my business to reach one day the level of condescension. That's jealousy. I want what you have. When somebody sees my body and they don't have it, they're thinking, I want what he has. How'd he get it? Well, my friend, I have a service for you. I have an offer to make you.
Yeah.
And it will make your life better. Click the link, right? But it's the same thing. Like I get to show off something good to inspire you to make your life better. The same way, like, and you guys can show your business success for me to be like, oh, I want that. And that'll make my life better. Sell me, please.
Please, yeah. At that point, you're asking.
Yeah.
Like you don't even have to sell, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of Myron's whole thing is like make yourself findable.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you do that? Well, you just speak truth. You provide value.
Yeah.
So that you don't have to sell.
Yeah. Where it would go wrong is if like your thing just wouldn't help me. So
if there's no
like,
transformation.
yeah. So like if it's just not a good fit, like yeah, you can use anything to manipulate someone, but
Yeah. We'll wrap it. I think you guys got a little bit of a drive back to undisclosed location tonight.
Still need to lift, boys.
You still need the lift today?
Yeah.
Are you actually going to work out after this?
Yeah.
It's like 10:30, I think.
No,
testosterone's
in.
raging right now.
10:09. Damn, it is late.
Yeah. It's testosterone. He's going to wake up tomorrow and be...
It's gonna be like Groundhog Day. It's gonna be like 8 more weeks in winter.
That's the goal.
Hey, little birdie, it's gonna be okay, little birdie.
That's the goal.